What you got lined up for us tonight, man?
I don't know, man. I'm debating. Go back to Y-band and look at how they can look at you inside out, outside in, or go over a patent that I found that supports some other stuff that I've talked about, where they can send your heart rate variability information, your emotional state, your disgust, your lust, your pleasure, your pain, your seduction, your sickness, your mind fuckery. They can send it to somebody else and actually use the antenna in a mobile device. This is an IBM patent to convey how you feel in conjunction with an email, a text message, or a chat room. And this was back in 2008. So I don't know. What do you think?
I'm keeping a night light on. That's what I know.
Yeah, I want to
put it like that. Dang.
I want to get TMC's take on Nashville. Could you just give me just a skinny on what you think, what your thoughts are?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think a lot about it. I think it's an opportunity for many things to happen at the same time. Network upgrades. It's a PR stunt. It's the ability to send a message. It's the ability to work through critical infrastructure issues. It's the ability to demonstrate and exercise power. It's also the ability to contain damage control. When you look at critical infrastructure and how critical infrastructure isn't as diversified as the public internet. It uses the public internet, but there's critical infrastructure that is not as redundant as a company like AT&T likes to sell their customers, including their government accounts. As a result of that, you get bottlenecks, and those bottlenecks are a useful place for taps to be put in, as well as for massive amounts of information aggregation. And that information is valuable, and it can be sold, and it can be sold more than one time, just like children can be sold more than one time. That information can be sold more than one time. It just takes a splitter or a mirror to separate the photons and duplicate them, and you can do that over and over and over again, and you can reroute traffic however you want while maintaining traffic flow. So a lot probably happened with that incident, in my view. A lot.
Makes a lot of sense. But I think the question was more towards, what do you think, like what side? You think it's a black hat side? You think it's a white hat side? What are you thinking? You thinking it was a diversion?
I think it was allowed to happen.
I buy that.
I'll say this about that. The chairman is retiring in January. The chairman stepped down from Boeing December 2017. He was on the board of Boeing. His name is Randall Stevenson. Former CEO, went to chairman to oversee Time Warner AT&T merger.
It wasn't it supposed to be a merger? Exactly, right?
Yeah. That merger. And then the guy who took over the Time Warner executive position now holds the CEO position of AT&T, while this guy who's retiring, Randy, is retiring from chairman position, which oversees the CEO and the board in January. And he's stepping down, and he's a real piece of work. Real piece of work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Flushing them out.
So everywhere. The timing is, it is what it is. December seems to be a fun month for AT&T, just in my opinion. So.
Well, you have firsthand knowledge.
That is an understatement, dude, for sure. That's an understatement.
Maggot, he answer your question?
Absolutely. I love it. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. And yeah, talk later. Thanks a lot.
Maggot, it was a pleasure. Have a good night. Salty, a pleasure.
Yes.
Chat, always a pleasure.
Yep. I'll see you Tuesday. I'll see you TMC in 2 hours, and chat 2 hours. Have a good show.
All right.
Have a great show, brother.
Thanks. So, not really sure what you guys want to look at. I'm kind of partial to the mind fuckery part of all of this. So I think that's what I want to share with you is a little more about human bond communication. And let's see. Oh, it's not. This is not the right window. Hold, please. The reason I want to share this with you is because this is not vendor specific. It is not company specific. This is the way the internet has been constructed. And the way the internet has been constructed is in such a way so that people can utilize products and services, particularly software as a service, to do things like interact with you, whether it be through your social media feed or through a collection of your metadata from emails, phone calls, text messages, on and on and on. Well, there's another layer to that. There's many layers to that. And my focus is on the mindfuck of it all, because that's where we're going, is to an integrated human-computer internet, human-computer interface. So we're going to review a little bit on this no-contact brain monitoring device that can sense your brain waves and can sense other people's brain waves at distance using an antenna in the device, like a watch. And that looks like this. This is a watch that has a coil. Word of the day, coil. Has a coil in it that sends magnetic pulses out and is able to read information about you and or put information into your brain with a coil. This is a real life patent. It really, really exists. It's right here, Freer Logic, and this is one of their amazing patents. Like, it's great technology, just how it's used. And it discusses being able to use something like a watch to inject. They literally use that word. It's right here. Inject neural messages into the peripheral nervous system, right? For example, methods of magnetically through transcranial magnetic stimulation, in this case of the visual areas in the occipital cortex, right? So the vision part of your brain. They can modulate the neurons, the neural activity, through rapidly changing magnetic fields using that coil, word of the day, antenna. Additionally, they can use electrical contacts, like the little electrodes that take your heartbeat, let you know if you're stressed or whatever. Yeah, well, heart rate variability is also what we're going to talk about today. And this remote extraction of your heartbeat and your respiration and your biomagnetic signature that says a lot about you. It's unique. It's a unique characteristic, and it changes based on how you're feeling emotionally or physically. Anyway, that can be extracted out of the body with something that's making contact with your body, like electrodes, or with something like a coil using something like transcranial magnetic stimulation or just magnetic stimulation. I'm going to show you some more about these things today. So it says here these methods can be used in combination as a neurostimulation method to exchange information between brains directly in neural code. So what they're saying here is that these electrical contacts or the magnetic pulsing from a coil antenna or something that's haptically, through vibration, for example, stimulating the nerves, interacting with your peripheral nervous system or directly with the specific regions in your brain, can send impulses through your nervous system or directly into your brain that your brain interprets as actual signals, in this case language, like hello. And this enables brain-to-brain communication in a diagram that looks like this over the internet. So this is a more modern patent, and here's the actual commercial device. It's got the same form factor generally as a smartwatch, has the same components in it, electrodes and antennas that are able to interact with you. And this was filed, I should say, 2016, signed in 2017, and it was the actual publication of the patent was June 30th of 2020. The provisional was published in 2018. Not that old of technology. So you think, oh, great, right? No big deal. Right? Well, here we go. This is from 1996. The Secretary of the Navy, evaluation of a subject's interest in education, training, or other materials using brain activity patterns, right? So this has been ongoing for a number of years. Quite frankly, this is going back to like the 1930s, but I'll show you, we're gonna read a document written by Dr. Delgado, published in 1969, to show you where they were at in 1969 with interacting with the brain and testing on monkeys and cats and dogs and other animals to remotely control behavior and remotely control motor function and all of these things through direct implantation into the brain and understanding neural code, which now can be injected into your nervous system through a coil antenna or the electrodes on the back of a watch. And both of these babies are in all of your modern wrist wearable devices. And by the way, they're also in things like earbuds. This is an EEG monitor with capacitive electrodes. That just means that they're not in direct physical contact, but they actually generate an electric field that interacts with your skin and therefore your nerves. And there's quite a bit in your ears. There's the trigeminal and the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in your body, and it basically makes contact with every single one of your organs, up to and including your brain. The trigeminal nerve is also another major nerve, and there's a bunch of facial nerves and cranial nerves that run alongside your face. And these things, these earbuds, have antennas in them and electrodes in them. So we're laying some groundwork here. Earbuds, right? Apple AirPods, sleek, sexy, lovely, buy them, gotta have them, God, I want them. But look, there are electrodes on these things. Stay with me. We're gonna get to the emotion piece and this notion of human bond communication and the future of 5G and beyond. Human bond sensorium, wisdom, complete full spectrum transmission of all five senses and your emotion, up to and including automation of the species. If you dare to allow your mind to wander that far, is it possible? Is it probable? Is it already happening to some extent today? That is the question. Electrodes, AirPods, nice, sleek, sexy, lovely. Love it. Oh, and they come in wired or wireless. For those of you that can't afford the $250, you might get some complimentary because there's more information available out of you. It's more valuable than the damn cost involved with producing these things. How much money is your brain worth? Your thoughts, your impulses, what drives you, what drives your spending habits, what euphorically makes you happy, what pisses you off, what turns you on. Oh, and they come in black. It gets better. Beats by Dre. Those of you that have been with me for a while, we've been through this. We're going through it again because, damn it, this is important. Because everybody just had a Merry Christmas, and I wonder how many of y'all got some of this shit. Huh. Maybe you gave it to your kids. Well, these are electric fields, and these are the Beats by Dre Tour. These are the Tour, so not necessarily the higher end model. These are the mid-grade, more or less an entry-level model of Beats by Dre, but they have a really pretty picture here of these conductive traces that are inside these little earbuds that emit electric fields. That's what it says right here when you highlight over the yellow in the actual patent, electric fields. So we move on. Sports model, yeah. These have conductive traces around the back of the ear in that bendable, pliable piece that clips around the back of the ear. Well, those are conductive and those emit electric fields. And again, there are nerves in your ear, around your ear, that interact with your organs and your brain. And we have good old Trusty, right? These are probably the most common Beats by Dre in the various models and colors and whatnot. Well, there's electrodes all over these things. Electrodes. Every one of these squares is an electrode, including the nice cushy pad around the outside. Yep, electrodes, 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 electrodes. So it's not just a watch, right? It's not just a watch. But we're going to focus on this idea of brain monitoring and transmitting information into the nervous system of the brain. Navy, 96, checking on your brain, understanding training, focus, attention span, all that good stuff, right? Well, we're going to spend some time on this patent right here. This is IBM. You know, the people that have the Watson computer, the company that was responsible for barcoding the Jews in World War II. Oh, and a primary backbone network partner with AT&T. AT&T uses IBM, particularly their Watson platform, to route technicians to and fro, amongst other things that company partners with AT&T to do, managing their infrastructure. So we're all about organization, right? All about commoditization. Delivering the best service possible. Well, what if you are the service? I'm digressing. So, method for monitoring and communicating biomedical electromagnetic fields, IBM. The present invention provides a system and a method of monitoring and communicating biomedical data to a remote server. Specifically, the present invention provides a system and a method that can monitor biomedical-based electromagnetic fields. For example, heart rate variability, right? That electric field emitted from a human user, sender, and or communicate, this is the important part, the biomedical-based electromagnetic field to a remote receiver by measuring this biomedical electromagnetic field and then creating a signal that matches it, transmitting it or broadcasting that recreated signal, and then applying that signal to a remote receiver. And receiver is a person. And in more detail, we go. We are not going to read what is necessarily claimed. We are going to get right into the meat of this thing. Online communication has become increasingly popular for both entertainment and business. Such communication includes both asynchronous communication like email, which means it goes one way and then you wait for a response. It's not bidirectional. It's not immediately bidirectional. And synchronous communication, meaning like instant messenger or chat, where you are two or more parties directly engaged at the same time. Further, these communications include those between only two users, right? Email message from a manager to an employee, for example, or an instant message from a husband to a wife, as well as those between larger sets of users. Messages sent to many people, like a newsletter sent to all club members, or an online chat group, which includes 3 or more participants. Currently available communication methods allow for broadcast of information like text and voice, as well as multimedia, like what we're doing right now, live broadcasts. All the participants in a teleconference would be another example. So here we are with Zoom, locked down like little bitch slaves. We're in front of our computers that have really, really cool technology in them that allow direct and personal engagement And I say that sarcastically because that's exactly what we're not doing anymore. Direct personal engagement. We now have a computer and an internet and a cloud in between communication. But I'm digressing. Let's continue. None of the currently available methods, bear in mind, this is back originally in 2008, include a broadcast or apply of the biomedical electromagnetic fields of any of the participants. Wait a minute. So none of the current methods provide a means or a mechanism to extract the biomedical electromagnetic fields and to insert them into other people. That's what that's saying. A method of enabling machine learning to be applied to the magnetic fields emitted by the human heart has been known. Well, what does that mean? That means that they have been able to extract and understand your physiology from antennas. They can do this with antennas and with cameras very efficiently for a very, 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 very long time. And I will show you briefly what I mean. This is a video from MIT, emotional radio, recognition of emotion using wireless signals. So just I'm going to lay this out step by step. Hang on. I want to make sure that I have the sound checked. I do not. So here we go.
This video describes EQ radio, a new technology from Professor Kitabi's group at MIT that can recognize people's emotions using wireless signals. Was there a moment in your life when you looked at someone's face, but you could not figure out how they feel? What if your wireless router can tell people's emotions even if they don't show them on their faces? This is exactly what our technology does. This is our device. The device transmits a wireless signal which reflects off a person's body and comes back. It captures these reflections and analyzes them to infer the person's emotions. Specifically, our algorithms zoom in on the wireless reflections to extract the minute variations due to breathing and heartbeats. We then further analyze these reflections to extract the breathing signal and the heartbeat signal. We then zoom in more on these signals to obtain individual heartbeats and breathing cycles and feed these as features into a machine learning algorithm to recognize a person's emotions. The device can automatically know if the person is excited, angry, sad, or happy. Our device can recognize emotions with an accuracy of 87% while relying purely on wireless signals. We envision that EQ radio can be used in many applications. It can recognize a person's emotions while he is watching a movie and provide movie makers with better tools to evaluate user experience. It can also allow smart environments to detect emotional states like depression and inform us to improve our emotional well-being. It can even enable these environments to react to our moods and adjust lighting or music accordingly. To learn more about this research, please check out our website.
All right, so there it is. It's possible, right? Very, very possible. You have ultra wideband that can do it. We've gone over that in detail. And you have this idea of micro impulse radar, which is now coming out in everything. It's coming out in everything. Cars, buildings, phones, you name it. And this is what it does. It takes information out of your body and makes sense of electromagnetic signals that it can then be used to recreate the environment or recreate your physiologic or emotional state or your physical state. With sub-millimeter resolution, mind you. We will get back into wideband here shortly to explain that not only is it just an image recreation, it's actually able to measure the electrical properties of your tissues, the electrical properties, bones, muscle, fat, blood, and distinguish between the 2, 3, 4, whatever, and also induce a change and then simultaneously measure that change But that's not the discussion for today. We're just looking at how they can suck your emotions out of you and squirt them into somebody else. So back to this patent, right? Machine learning to be applied to the magnetic fields, right, that are emitted by the human heart has been known, which showed you a video about it, where they can extract your emotional state out of you using wireless signals. However, this method does not provide any means of broadcasting or transmitting these fields to a remote user. Wait a minute. Reading and writing this stuff, your emotion in and out of you to somebody else, or vice versa. A system, now just imagine what could be done if this was done over the internet or over television broadcast during a fucking election cycle, folks. Just gonna lay that out there. One possibility. Never mind what large corporations like, for example, a giant technology company like Google or Facebook or Twitter or Apple or telecom company like AT&T that advocates for all mobile, all wireless, all IP. Let me hand a mobile device or 2 or 3 to every one of my employees and then mandate they keep it with them 24/7. Wonder why? Well, many reasons, but here we go. So, a method and a system that can detect a body condition like a heart rate and communicating it to a computer have been known. Okay. However, this method and system do not provide a method of transmitting the electromagnetic field of one user and then applying it to a remote user, which means take it out of you, put it into a data format, ones and zeros, move it across the internet, and then transpose it back into an electromagnetic field that then modulates the nervous system and the brain of the receiver so that they feel the emotion that was transmitted over the internet. If you don't think this is possible, I give you this. Huawei partnership with FT4BI, 5G, wireless communication era, this idea of feeling, identification, and transmission. Europe, 2017. This was discussed and advertised in London in 2017, this idea of human bond communication, novel personal network concept that has the capability to express and transform all 5 human senses into the information domain, meaning into ones and zeros, so it can be transmitted and received like any other existing data being exchanged today, like streaming media. This was a statement made by Ramji Prasad in 2014. Feeling, identification, and transmission, quantifying what the neural code is and combining these two, for example, to generate a feeling of sadness, remorse, and disapproval, or surprise, disapproval, and awe. Surprise and fear. Fear and trust. You can look at this 2 different ways. Love and submission, trust, submission and awe, fear. Optimism, aggressiveness, anticipation, anger, disgust, right? Emotion. Quantifying your emotional state, digitizing it, and making somebody else feel it. It's not their emotion, it's some other emotion that their body is understanding as their own, inducing an artificial emotion. How powerful of a tool is this, folks? So, a contactless device that can measure the electromagnetic fields generated by a given user's heart, transmitted over the internet to a remote user. A means of comparing this condition with 2 or more subjects has been known, but may include electromagnetic fields generated by the subject's hearts. However, the means do not provide any means of broadcasting the field from one subject to another. This system is an apparatus and a method to measure the physical, chemical, and biological parameters, right? These methods are known. The values can be used to trigger or produce an action or a signal. We're talking about your body and your brain. The signals are transmitted to a remote data storage station by wireless transmission, such as electromagnetic waves, radio waves, infrared, sound, or the like. Any method that they can transmit information, they are indicating that they can and they will. or by being reported locally to an audio-visual transmission. However, the action or signal is not transmitted by any means to one or more several remote users. They are laying out what can be done and what is not yet done, and then they will address what this patent is going to do. And everything they say that they're not able to do here, they're going to tell you that this patent can do it with a coil antenna. System and a method to measure without physical contact a magnetic field on a subject's chest have been known. However, the system and method do not provide a means of broadcasting or transmitting these fields to a remote user. Processing biomagnetic fields generated by biocurrents resulting from activities of the human brain, or myocardium has been known, heart. However, method does not provide any means of broadcasting or transmitting these informations to one or several remote users. A biomagnetic field measuring apparatus has been known. And it goes on and on. We're going to skip a little bit. Real-time acquisition and archiving systems for multiple time-sampled signals, right? The system does not provide by any means broadcasting or transmitting this information, but it will. So here we go. Summary of the invention. You kind of get the idea, right? They can extract the information and they can store the information, but there hasn't been something available to transmit the information over the internet into somebody else. The present invention recognizes a system and a method that can monitor, detect, and or record all biomedical-based electromagnetic fields emitted by a human subject or a user, and communicate and or apply these biomedical-based electromagnetic fields to a remote receiver. Accordingly, one aspect of the present invention is directed to a method of monitoring, detecting, and or recording biomedical-based electromagnetic fields, preferably the heart rate variability field, emitted from a first human, right? Also referred to as a sender, associating that electromagnetic field with a message sent by the sender, like a text or an email, for example, or video chat, and communicating and or applying the associated message to a remote second human or a receiver, right? So now we have an association of the word receiver that we've been hearing about as a second user, as another person. By measuring or recording the biomedical-based electromagnetic field emitted from the sender, the first human, while the sender is communicating a message to a remote receiver, creating an electronic signal corresponding to the electromagnetic fields that they're emitting, and transmitting and broadcasting or applying these signals to another person, a remote receiver. Preferably, the transmission or broadcasting is encoded, including but not limited to a digital signature, a global positioning system, location, data, and or scene information, right? That way, in case it's an emergency, they can come and help you. If your bioelectromagnetic field shows panic and fear and distress, they can evaluate that and determine if it's above threshold, which they talk about in this patent. And that will then determine whether or not they send help and how quickly in our smart city automated robotic future. In another aspect, the present invention contemplates additional steps of analyzing the received heart rate variability field to determine physical and emotional state of the sender, the person, and or transmitting and applying the receiver field to one or more additional receiver users, right? Other people, preferably one or more additional receiver users, other people who are participants in a collaborative online environment, a chat room or a meeting. I'm going to read this again and make it not sound so lawyer-ish. So they're going to be able to understand and read somebody's heart rate variability, their bioelectromagnetic field, and they are going to, from that, determine the physical and or emotional state of that person. We just watched a video about one way in which that can be done, right? And then they're going to transmit that emotional state and apply it to another person or other people in a chat room that they're all sharing. Cyber. So we can remove physical interaction, and then there is a need for this feeling of connection, whatever that is, right? Wholesome for some, sick, perverted for others, but this need for interactivity, this need for a connection, and they are going to be able to synthesize it and simulate it digitally over the internet. And then convince people that being around other biological life forms is dirty and dangerous. Just do it through a computer screen. And still another aspect, after analyzing the received field, the present invention also contemplates additional steps of receiving communication, like a panic request, along with the field. Analyzing the communication to determine whether or not the panic request is life-threatening. And comparing the communication with an analysis of the field, for example, determining that even though the request is life-threatening, the received field does not indicate any stress. So are you calling 911 because you really mean it, or are you crank calling 911? Well, your phone's going to know. They're going to be able to read the stress levels in the environment electromagnetically and determine whether or not there is elevated stress. I detect elevated stress levels in your voice patterns. Are you okay? Do you need me to call somebody? Detective Spooner. For those of you that don't know, has been my favorite movie. One of my favorite movies, I, Robot. I had a discussion with a senior level executive at AT&T about that movie, I, Robot, and the responsibility that a company like AT&T has or should have. I asked what was the responsibility as it relates to maintaining a network that enables connectivity everywhere, every place, all the time in high fidelity. And what was AT&T's responsibility to ensure that they were looking out for humans with this whole idea of automation and the fourth industrial revolution and robotics and this notion of software as a service, everything as a service. And we're talking right now about emotion and physical status, your current physiological status being converted into software. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and this really might piss some of you off, freak some of you out, or maybe you'll just turn off because this might be too much. Imagine what these sick fucks are doing with kids with this kind of technology. Imagine being compromised and having to share your physiological state as well as your victim's physiological state with a power broker in order to promote, to move forward in the echelons of control and power in whatever field you want to talk about. Hollywood, politics, business, you name it. This is like the ultimate lie detector test. And if this stuff exists, do you really need a video camera to compromise people? It gives a whole new meaning to really understanding what full spectrum dominance is and saying we have it all, whatever. And we've all heard that cliche before, right? Just saying. If you let your mind go there, what these sick fucks would do. Now, bear in mind the old geriatric ones that are sitting on top, perched on top, and don't possess the physical strength to actually go do whatever it is their dirty little vicious fucking hearts want to do, right? But instead, they just log in to somebody a little younger, a little more able, who's a little hungrier to move up on the totem pole. And they log in and they, through a full sensory virtual reality, get to experience what it is to torment and torture and suck and exsanguinate the essence, the physiologic essence out of somebody who cannot defend themselves. And I submit to you that if there are companies out there that have the means to detect traffic and behavior like that, if they are not, they should be. Period. I don't care where they are in the network. I don't care where they are with respect to how they manage their data. Are they, we're just the freeway. We don't give a shit. We want an open internet freedom for everybody. We are just the highway. We're not bullshit. Anyway, back to the fun and friendly version of sending somebody a little flutter of your heart when you want to send them a Valentine's Day through a text message or, a picture with some roses and chocolate, right? We'll get back to the cute and fluffy shit that they put in these patents. So, the method of the present invention contemplates using a device for broadcasting or receiving the broadcasted signals and data corresponding to a biomedical-based electromagnetic field emitted by a human. Which devices include but are not limited to, a portable device, a fixed phone, a mobile phone, a computer, for example, a laptop, or a personal digital assistant. For example, a PDA having the brand name BlackBerry. Oh. You mean that this invention contemplates using devices that we all have, that are all around us, that we perhaps even gave to our loved ones for Christmas to do stuff like this? No child left behind. Everybody gets an iPad or a laptop. We can't have people falling behind in class. No, we need Wi-Fi and we need a tablet in every child's bed. I mean, every child needs to learn. Happy fucking holidays, folks. Let's read a little bit more. So now they're going to get into the details. That was just a summarization. Now we're going to get into the details. And some of it might be repetitive, but this is important because this stuff is everywhere. We're going to digress again, and I'll show you the little coil picture that they have here. And here is your wireless coil. This is just a generic drawing of a coil, wire coil. Something in a mobile device or a phone or a laptop. These are in everything. And they are going into more and more things. Monitoring device, wire coil, broadcasting device. Now this is the, put it into your nervous system stuff. You think, okay, well, I don't have anything like that in my phone. Oh, okay, well, no. Let me show you. Let me just show you here. This little coil right here. This is the coil. I clicked on the box and I did not want to take you to this patent. So this little coil right here is something like your wireless power charging coil. They're in every coil. It's in everything. And we've gone over many moons ago, we may again, we've gone over antennas that are coil-based antennas that go in something like a smartwatch so that they double and triple their functions. They are a magnetic wireless conductive charger, a capacitive coupling charger, inductive coupling charger, wireless charging, wireless inductive coupling, using magnetic fields to provide power to a device. They also are used to drive speakers. They also are used to transmit and receive wireless communication signals like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phone service. And so the reason that your cool little device can do so many things, right, especially the small, sleek, sexy ones like a watch, is because they can put these core physical components into the devices and then use software and complex circuitry to have them perform multiple functions. This is just one example. This is the easiest one to find for you. Easiest one. So coils. So human user, sender and receiver, been there, done that. Talked about that. Particular embodiment in the present invention is directed to a method of monitoring and detecting and recording a biomedical-based electromagnetic field, preferably a heart rate variability field, emitted from a human user, also referred to as a sender, associating the electromagnetic field with a message sent by the sender, communicating the associated message to somebody else by measuring the biomedical-based electromagnetic field while the sender is communicating a message to the remote receiver, right, the other person, creating an electronic signal corresponding to this measured biomedical electromagnetic field, an encoded version of the biomedical electromagnetic field, and then transmitting or broadcasting and or applying that signal to a remote receiver, somebody else. They talk about using a digital signature, right? So everybody needs an SSL certificate. Everybody needs VeriSign. Everybody needs a CAPTCHA to make sure that you're not a bot, right? It's that kind of shit, that kind of software that's associated with linking your electromagnetic signature to a love note to your hubby, or from a supervisor to a subordinate, an approval or a disapproval, an appreciation, or something that's disciplinary. Imagine how impacting this stuff would be for teachers, for parents, for military training. Digital signatures, right? As well as global positioning systems, GPS, right? For example, the encoded biomedical electromagnetic fields can have additional information appended to it. This data including but not limited to location data or scene information, an indication that the sending user or sender is working from home. That's interesting. Scene information. What does that mean? If I'm sitting at one desk versus another and I have a different view than the essence of what it is that I'm sending somebody else, as the emotional context of the message indicates that I'm at home versus at my workplace location. I'm in my car instead of, somewhere else. Makes you wonder. Because what we're getting at here is this extraction of emotion and applying it to the nervous system of somebody else. And then we had this watch here that's able to convey complete thoughts up to and including stimulating the visual center, right? So now you've got the limbic system, the hypothalamus, and other central brain components, right, that are able to be modulated for emotion, and the prefrontal cortex. They're all kind of related. Neural circuits fire different parts of the brain more or less simultaneously to generate complex activity in the brain. And we have the vision center and we have the emotion center, right? So if they can do it with those things, don't you think they could probably do it with the see, taste, touch, smell, hear? Don't you think they could do all of them? I mean, there's pads out there for brain resonance where they can selectively resonate different parts of the brain. I'll show you that one day with electromagnetic fields, mind you. So, another embodiment of this invention contemplates additional steps of analyzing the received field to determine the physical, emotional state of the user, or by applying the received field to one or more receivers. What if they can do this every time political candidate A was shown to you on YouTube or was broadcast as a commercial during Fox or CNN? And then it's the opposite emotion or feeling or essence when candidate B. What happens when Google, Apple, Facebook, or Twitter, right, has access to all of the mobile devices in a particular corporation or in a particular city government? And every time an issue comes up that needs attention, machine learning is able to recognize it. Alexa, Google Home, Facebook Portal, these are just examples. The microphone on a mobile device, laptop, telephone, whatever, is sufficient. It's voice recognition, active, ongoing recognition technology. So when a subject matter comes up, all of a sudden now engage the machine learning, and you can then technotronically, positronically dictate or influence the outcome of governing type decisions. Or to influence the outcome of choosing brand X over brand Y based on how much that advertiser has paid to modulate this kind of information over the commercial feed. And if you don't think that's possible, we can look at the electromagnetic field from computer monitors, from monitors, to manipulate the nervous system by Heinrich Luz. We will get to Heinrich Luz. There are a few of his patents that we will go over in detail about nervous system manipulation with electric fields and magnetic fields. What I'm telling you, folks, is stuff that, in my view, this stuff has been going on for a long, long time. Anyway, chat room, applying and receiving this emotional field to one or more people who are potentially participants in a collaborative online environment. Well, that's everybody these days. Zoom. China's spying with Zoom. Zoom needs access. Zoom needs access to your camera and your microphone. Oh, and it may need access to your internet connection so it understands how to compress the data stream to ensure that you have a seamless experience. Well, now, what if you're using Zoom over Wi-Fi? Well, if it has access to your camera and your microphone and it needs to be able to send images to your monitor, does it have access to how your monitor emits light? Can it flicker the screen? Can it change the pixel content in just a nice, subtle kind of way? I'm just saying. These are all components in that manipulation of electromagnetic fields from a monitor patent, where it discusses modulating the color in pixels to entrain your brain, to manipulate your nervous system. And there are patents from Lockheed Martin that discuss using light and sound injected to your eyes and your ears to alter your consciousness. We will get to neural programming, cerebral programming later. And these are ongoing, and they have been known, this stuff's been known for decades at this point. I'll show you piece by piece. Anyway, back to the emotional raping. Talks about, again, life-threatening situation, comparing the communication analysis of this bioelectromagnetic field to verify the authenticity, whether or not the request is really life-threatening or not, based on your stress levels, extracting your emotion. After analyzing the received field, the present invention contemplates the additional step of generating an alert based on the analysis. Oh, wait a minute. You mean if I happen to be incredibly frustrated with children and I've already told them 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, a dozen fucking times to do something, and all of a sudden you might have an elevated stress pattern in your voice, and wait, or your heart rate's going up, your blood pressure's going up because you're just so damn frustrated because, dinner's almost ready and now it's going to get cold because you have to sit there and actually make sure they go do whatever it is they need to do before you can finish getting dinner done. And all of a sudden now, oh, wait, alarm, we're going to send CPS. It's not just life-threatening, folks. If this technology exists where there are throttles and checks in place, then there's going to be a threshold. You're going to have a normal baseline, and when you're above or below the thresholds of your normal baseline, it's going to send an alert. An alert. What does that look like? Well, it looks something like this. This is the knowledge home, human bond communication, where it's able to understand your vision, olfactory, tactile, auditory, and gustatory sensations. Notice all the wireless here. Ones and zeros, wireless sensorium. Wireless. To be able to have your home be connected so that it's self-aware, so that it's caring and it's helping, so that it can control and guide and provide security and public safety based on things like your emotional threshold. There's more than one way to take away your children, folks. So, let's continue. In a preferred embodiment, the method of the present invention only broadcasts under particular conditions, meaning that if the user's field passes the certain threshold values. Now, we're talking about antennas picking up your bioelectromagnetic signature. This is also done with voice recognition. It's also done with cameras. But this particular juicy patent from IBM circa 2008 and revised in 2013 is talking about using a coil, like a coil, to pick up your electromagnetic signature that emanates from your body. The method of the present invention contemplates using devices from which the field is broadcast, right? So this is broadcasting this digitized emotional signature, broadcasting it from the device to somebody else into their body, violating their sovereignty. Contemplated devices include, but are not limited to, portable devices, a fixed device, a fixed phone, a mobile phone, a computer, for example, a laptop, a personal digital assistant, like a BlackBerry. Further embodiment, the present invention is directed to a method for transmitting your heart rate variability data, your electromagnetic field, to influence the receiver's physical and emotional state. To influence somebody else's physical and emotional state. Transmitting electromagnetic energy that's modulated in such a way so that the brain and the nervous system interpret it as an emotional or a physical experience. But hey, everybody's just tripping about Twitter blocking a tweet. For example, the present invention contemplates a method for transmitting a positive HRV, heart rate variability, or an electromagnetic field to improve the receiver's state, somebody else's state. So you can transmit a positive electromagnetic field to improve the receiver's state if they are in a life-threatening situation, to calm them. It's okay. We know you're bleeding out. Emergency services aren't around right now, but that's okay. We're just going to gently, lovingly modulate you so you just lie back. Stay quiet, stay calm. We'll regulate your heartbeat. We'll regulate your stress. We'll give you a gentle digital version of morphine while you sit there and you bleed out because your arm's been cut off in a car accident. We're really, really sorry. Don't worry. We'll phone your loved ones when it's all over. Shh, rest now. Rest. It won't take long. Close your eyes. The present invention contemplates a given user to perform the following 3 acts. First, a user, the sender, authorizes a message, sends it to a second user, the receiver, and then has his or her sender's heart rate variability field, which was recorded when the message was authored, and then broadcasted to the receiver, the other person, while the second user reads the message. Are you paying attention, folks? This is a text message with the essence of an emotion associated. And it's not just love and roses and butterflies and rainbows. How easy would it be to inject fear or dread or stress or anxiety or irritation? How easy would it be to misconstrue a simple 4-word text that had one connotation, but when read, you just didn't see it that way. So now you have a breakdown in communication. Could be completely out of character, right? Could be completely abnormal. But yet, if the right emotional signature was modulated while you were actually reading a message, you may have a completely different interpretation of what it is that was expressed. How do you mind fuck a whole society? What does positronic, technotronic manipulation from a global cloud in an automated environment look like? Well, it's done by manipulating emotion, first and foremost, because we are emotional creatures. Whether you think you are driven by emotion or not, you are. Some more so than others, but ultimately it is the emotion of life that motivates us to do one thing versus another when it comes down to it. So, another number 2 here, right? The first user records
his or her electromagnetic field at a particular time and associates this pre-recorded field with a particular symbol that can be displayed at the receiving device. For example, an emoticon like a happy face, or a slurpy tongue, or crying, right? Or disgust or anger, or whatever little emoticon you like to use. All those cute little fluffy pictures that are available in the text chat and everything else. Yeah, those. Only when sending those, it has an electromagnetic transmission that will be injected into the people or person reading your emoticon. Virtual and augmented reality, folks, in the digital space to replace human-to-human interaction, because humans are dirty and COVID is bullshit. So, pre-recorded, associates it with an emoticon, and then later, including this emoticon, this symbol in a message, he or she sends it to another user, somebody else, with the associated electromagnetic field being broadcast to the second user while the second user reads the message containing that symbol. Now, that means that it has to be stored in a database. It's not stored on your phone. It's not stored on your computer. So this goes into your personal digital dossier. Your unique electromagnetic emotional experience at any given time in the day, whether you want it to be recorded for a particular emoticon association or not. The fact is that it can be. And so that you can then have a reference, a database that can be referenced to understand you under surveillance, right? It's kind of like location services. You can turn it off, but is it really off? No, it's not. It's not really off. You don't have the functionality of it, but it's still doing what it does. You're still putting out a log. This is the same thing. Only it's your emotions, potentially up to and including your thoughts, right? Because these patents are associated with each other, right? Your thoughts over the internet, sharing with other people through something like a stupid ass smartwatch. Here is patent citations, right? Patent citations. We are reading this patent right here. Method for monitoring and communicating biomedical electromagnetic fields. This is a patent that has been cited. It has been cited, right? By this Freer Logic patent that's posted on humaninternet.org, dual EEG, no contact monitor with personal EEG monitor that talks about injecting, right? Injecting into a person's peripheral nervous system neural code, either through an antenna, through magnetic means, magnetic stimulation of the visual areas of the brain, right? Rapidly modulating neural activity through rapidly changing magnetic fields, or electrically through the electrodes that are either on the watch or implanted underneath your skin. Now, we're not going to get into the electrode stuff today, but I'll just, hashtag Charles Lieber with his nano bioelectronic devices. And if you want to read about that, again, humaninternet.org, and you can go to nanotechnology, and there is this little section here about cyborg cells that really is all about Charles Lieber and his work with the Air Force Research Lab dealing with cyborging of neural tissues for brain-computer interfaces using quantum dot technology and silicon-doped nanotech that goes in and deposits inside of neural cells and creates complex circuits, particularly using field effect transistors that are modulated and or provide feedback with electric fields that happen to be what your brain and your nervous system emit, and also one of the mechanisms by which they can be influenced, an electric field. And we are talking about electromagnetic fields being inserted into a receiver to convey emotion that's associated with an email, a text message, phone call, whatever. So on the skin, in the body, in the organs, it's been done, folks. It's been done. But I'm digressing. Let's go back. Figure 1 shows an example, blah, blah, blah. Don't need to worry about that. What you need to see here is that the computing device that can load and or execute this programmatic code, right? Something like a ThinkPad or a Power PC, Microsoft XP, something with the Linux operating system. They're using these as examples. And they have this thing called the SWIFTs, right? Say it with feeling. This is an actual product or a service that they're either considering using or are using and perhaps have rebranded it. Say it with feeling service. And this goes back to software as a service. When enough of your bioelectromagnetic profile has been aggregated and stored and then can subsequently be transmitted over the internet, how easy is it to just transmit your emotions back to you? You're already comfortable feeling them. They already have a conversion. They already have a handoff, right? So your signature is not just packaged as your signature and then put into somebody else's nervous system. It doesn't work that way. They will collect yours. It will go through a computer translator in the cloud to match the receiver's unique bioelectromagnetic experience, their unique bioelectromagnetic signature that matches whatever it is that you wanted to send to them, going through a computer translator. So they can just turn around and just send your own bullshit back to you, because you're already giving it to them. If you sign up for the service, if you believe that you have to have the right software and the right device, and then you have to acknowledge and accept the terms of service, and then actually use the service before this kind of stuff is actually being collected on you. Hey, because Constitution means something, right? Bill of Rights means something, right? Fourth Amendment means something, right? Right? Internet Bill of Rights? Anybody want to, maybe give that a thought? What does an Internet Bill of Rights look like? It's not open internet. I'll tell you that right now. Because that's how old dirty pedophiles get around and get their jollies with other more able-bodied pedophiles doing the dirty work. And they just sit around in virtual reality. I love it. I'm sharing this dirty emotion, this dirty essence. Fucking people make me so sick, dude. So one with regular skill in the art will appreciate something like Instant Messenger, something that supplies like AOL's instant messaging as an instance of synchronous version, right? So this idea of being in an instant messenger or a chat room versus email, different ways in which your electromagnetic field can be associated. Online room disconnection handler. Oh, when you leave the room, right, a disconnection request is given. And that way, you can go away and you're not getting zapped with the room's emotion anymore because you've left. Terminate the forwarding of all of the given room's field and message updates from an online room field update server. Memory contains online room message update server handler. Supporter, which supports an online discussion forum, henceforth referred to as an online room, right? They line all this shit out. In the SIFWIS, right, send it with feeling service, has its own little server. IBM, Watson, giant international company, right? Bill Gates' mom used to be on the board of IBM. Bill Gates, right, got the basic input-output system software from IBM and then started Microsoft. They're basically the same fucking thing. Yeah. So existing examples of such a service include chat rooms, like that supplied by Sometime Meeting and Easy Chat server. Both of these services lack is for given participant to have a heart rate variability field of all of the other room members broadcast to him or her while they participate. The room messages updating server handler is responsible for forwarding and posting from one user to all of the other room members. To accomplish this, whenever online room message is received, right? So they're breaking down this distinction between just the data, the text that's put in an online server, and today it's video conferencing, right? Separate from the emotional piece. Database, IBM databases, cataloging your emotions. Figure 3 is the send it with feeling server. They break down what that looks like. Online requests, online disconnects, online field updates. Flow control. Responsible for processing a request of any given user. So you could read through these things and understand, or they give you basically a flow chart, a diagram about how information actually moves around and is processed, so that when it's all done, you just have a nice, pretty, seamless experience, right? Let's see what else is in here. A diagram including the flow control of an online field room, user ID, user node, online room, user's location in the room, user's direction of gaze in the room, encoding of the user's field. We're going to keep going here. Detailed component diagram of a client node. Send it with feeling client, right? The client, the end user device, represents a client node. Such a client may comprise any computing node able to load and execute programming code, communicating via a network. IBM ThinkPad running Windows XP. Additional platforms include network-connected mobile devices, such as those sold under the trademark BlackBerry, as well as smart cellular telephones, devices which can act as a cell phone, as well as run network applications. And you can see the dating of the patent, right? The Nokia 90008, right? Field broadcasting device, a field broadcasting device, a field monitoring device. There's more juice in here, so I'm kind of reading this in real time quickly. Here we go. So figure 15 depicts a field monitoring device. Figure 15, right? This is the coil thing that we've been kind of harping on tonight. The coils. Coils. Something in your cell phone that's got a coil. These things. Oh, and they can make coils with your screen too, just so you know. Your screen has conductive lines on it that they can energize the conductive traces. They come in a grid like tic-tac-toe, but there's a bunch of them, and they understand where you press on the screen, whether you're selecting the tile all the way to the left or the one next to it or the one next to it or the one all the way to the right, and then which row, top, middle, bottom, right? All that breaks down into a grid. Well, they can energize those into coils or into grids or into squares or into any shape they want and emit electric fields out of it. They're capacitive touch screens, capacitive fields, electric fields. So they can do this kind of stuff with a lot of different mechanisms on a cell phone or on something that's got a touchpad in this case. So coil is attached to a computer, accessible whenever the heart of the user node generates a magnetic field. This field induces a current in the coil. Did you know that your heart could do that? That you emit a magnetic field that's approximately 40 to 80 centimeters, right, around you? If you don't believe me, let me see if I can find the patent that discusses that. I think it was, no. It is, these are interesting patents. I found these today. This is a person in a tank that's going to get quantum-based therapy, biomodulation using photo-induced coherent resonance. I was looking at this stuff and then looking at LED V-cell chips on iPhones that discuss, doing things like reading your veins. Anyway, one of these patents that I found actually indicates that you have a biomagnetic field that's like 40 to 80 centimeters. Yeah, it's not in here. I'm not going to waste too much time on it. Nope. Oh, well. When we get there, we'll get there. You can look this up if you want. Biomagnetic field, bioelectromagnetic field. So whenever your heart, right, whenever they want to turn this thing on or set the sensitivity up to be able to read your heart, the electromagnetic field that's emitted out of your heart, right, that electromagnetic field induces a current in the coil, which can be measured and then retrieved. That's interesting. Well, we've looked at that technology quite a bit, and it's in these freer patents. Yeah, this talks about your heart rate, frequency components relevant to brain activity. This is that freer patent that discusses being able to, inject energy into your body through an antenna or through electrodes into your brain to transmit thought. Talks about the heartbeat being approximately 1 to 2 hertz as a frequency and energy component of a particular concern. It's very, very strong, right? So it says here, unrelated frequency components that are not related to brain waves, they want to get rid of, they want to filter out in order to understand your thoughts, right? So they're collecting all of your electromagnetic field, and then they're using filters, frequency filters, to get rid of the high amplitude, high power electromagnetic energy, which is what they're saying here. Electric activity of a person's heart are particularly high in magnitude when the sensors are connected to portions of the body below the head. The apparatus described herein may be embodied in systems which signal components have the raw signals resulting from electrical activity of a person's heart, where they are actively attenuated. And I'm showing this to you simply to corroborate what this patent is saying, this other patent over here, that your heart emits an electromagnetic field, and coils that are in smart devices are able to pick up on that electromagnetic field, and they can sample it and then understand after a number of samplings how you're feeling, what your health is, what your stress level is. We have 40 minutes left. The broadcasting component, right? Decoding the received electromagnetic field and then broadcasting this field to a user. So if a user sends a message to somebody else, the handler would provide that somebody else, that receiver person, with the sender's heart rate variability by decoding what is passed and then applying it, or they literally use the word radiating the user with electromagnetic energy to broadcast the actual signal. The field broadcasting handler employs the field broadcasting device, which is a coil, right? A more detailed component of block 1 embodiment, which is depicted in figure 16. So here's a coil that is the broadcast device, field broadcasting device that is radiating a user to convey to them some emotion that's associated with multimedia, with text. As shown, there is a wire coil which is connected to a computer controllable current source. Well, that's just any coil in a phone, right? It's all connected with the electronics. It's more complicated than that, but that's really a simplified version. That coil is connected to circuit boards that are able to run using software, and based on the software that's running through the circuit boards, those coils do different things. They can receive or they can transmit, and the same coil can do both. In one embodiment of the current invention, the encoding of the heart rate variability field, that electromagnetic field, consists of a first number representing a length of each sampling period, followed by a list of numbers representing the level of current to generate. So not only is it a feeling, but it is the intensity of the feeling. How strongly do you want to convey this, right? Are you really happy, or are you just kind of happy a little bit? Are you satiated, or are you satisfied? Right? That's what they're saying here, is that they can transmit the coding that needs to be emitted from the coil, radiated into a person or onto a person, but not only what emotion or sensation or whatever, but also the intensity of it. How strongly do you want that feeling to be conveyed into the brain and the nervous system? That is what this is saying. Setting a sampling period using a first number for a given encoding, and then reads the following number from the encoded heart rate variability field and commands the current source to generate that level for the specific sampling period. So it's not just all or nothing. It could be a gentle warming I love you, or a gentle warming appreciation, or a gentle warming affection, right? And then it can slowly build as you're reading whatever it is that you're reading. A letter from a soldier far away, or a Valentine's Day card, or a promotion, or a termination. And it can build and crescendo and then taper off and take you on an emotional roller coaster, just like a good movie. All through radiating your tissues with electromagnetic energy emitted from a coil. What else is in here? Online rooms, graphical user interfaces, blah, blah, blah. Still looking. Flow message. Emoticons previously defined. We talked about that, where you can pre-record, right? You can have happy or sad emoticons. And then when you decide to put those in through an instant messenger or whatever, then you get the associated physical emotion from your local device irradiating you, injecting it into your nervous system and your brain. Now, let me keep reading here. Yeah, I see you out there, Awkward Mama. I'm gonna add these notes. I'm gonna change 105 to these notes. I'll add them while over the next couple hours. This was kind of a last minute thing. I found this today. So we'll go back to wideband soon. What else is in here? I think we're getting towards the end of this thing. And examples. Let's read the examples. I mean, we've gone over plenty of examples, but let's see what the cute and fluffy ones are. Cute and fluffy version, right? Straight out of the patent. 3 examples, non-limiting, meaning this is not exclusive. Non-limiting usage scenarios demonstrate features of this invention. Buddy, good old Buddy, wants to send a message note to his colleague Helga. Demonstrates communication that includes and provides Buddy's electromagnetic field to Helga when Helga reads the note. This is a whole new level of sexual harassment, folks. Buddy brings up his Send It With Feeling service GUI on his computer, and in order to send a message note to his colleague Helga describing how happy and contented he is working on his current project. Since Buddy is feeling precisely this happiness and contentment as he writes the note, he selects the record field option when he starts authoring the note. The Send It With Feeling service client begins recording his heart rate variability field, his electromagnetic field, his bioenergy field, in the manner as described in the present application. Once he finished authoring the note, Buddy selects the send command. The Send It With Feeling software client encodes the heart rate variability data that has been recorded and includes it as an attachment to the note that is sent to Helga. Helga receives the note from Buddy on her Send It With Feeling service client. When she reads the note, Helga not only is shown all of the data, the text and the graphics that Buddy sent, but she also has Buddy's heart rate variability field applied to her, decoded from the data attached to Buddy's message so that she can feel the heart rate variability field or the feeling of happiness that Buddy had. Note that if Helga had read Buddy's note using a standard IM client, then the encoded heart rate variability field data would have been ignored.
What would a company like Facebook or Twitter do with this kind of stuff as you're sitting there scrolling through your feeds? I like this. I don't like that. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, that's cool. Oh, what a pretty little kitty. Sense, catalog. After a period of time, how many data points are they going to have? They will know you better than you. They will be able to take you on an emotional ride, and then they can sell it to their third-party affiliates that you have to agree to in the terms of service in order to use the beautiful, monolithic, all-knowing, all-seeing, curated platform that is Facebook, Twitter, Google, Microsoft, Apple. Example 2, in which Buddy sends a message to Helga that includes an extended emoticon, which provides one of Buddy's particular heart rate variability fields to Helga when she reads the note. At one point, using his Send It With Feeling service client, Buddy records his heart rate variability field when he's feeling particularly sad, tagging this data with an unhappy, a frowny face emoticon. So he's having a pissed off day. He's like, yeah, this is what it feels like to be mad. Let me record this shit and put it in a file. So anytime I am unhappy, I can just to somebody and then I can make them feel like shit. It's really what this is saying. The Send It With Feeling service client stores this data. Oh, it stores it. Oh, well, okay. Well, IBM then is able to, know what my bioelectromagnetic signature is when I feel happy or sad or whatever. Okay, great. Oh, but it's encrypted, right? So it's safe, right? It's encrypted. Encrypted form, along with its association with the, frowny face emoticon, right? At a later time, Buddy learns that he is being reassigned to a new project, which is sure to be irritating. Using the Send It With Feeling service client's messaging authoring application, Buddy writes another message to his colleague Helga. In the note, Buddy explains the situation, ending the description with the unhappy face emoticon, frowny face. When he sends the note, the Send It With Feeling service client includes the encrypted, for your protection, heart rate variability field data associated with the frowny face emoticon, as well as an indication that the frowny face emoticon should be associated with the given encrypted, pre-stored, cataloged, database in the cloud electromagnetic signature that is Buddy's feeling of shit. Helga receives the note from Buddy and begins reading it using the Send It With Feeling service message application on her computer. As soon as the unhappy frowny face emoticon becomes visible to Helga, the Send It With Feeling service messaging application decodes the encrypted for your protection heart rate variability field data and applies it to her, to Helga, to her nervous system and her brain so that she can feel the sadness of Buddy. Example 3. In which Buddy participates in an online community, in which all of the other participants' heart rate variability fields are sent and applied to all of the other participants. Wow, this is literally a virtual circle jerk. So let's see what this has to say. Buddy brings up a Send It With Feeling service online community application on his computer and connects it to the Send It With Feeling service server.
The Send It With Feeling service online community application downloads the available discussion rooms from the Send It With Feeling service server. This is just like an app, an API, something you would download from mobile app store, right? And they make it all complicated. The Sending With Feeling service server that's associated with this particular app's brand. It's a fucking server. That's all it is. And it begins monitoring Buddy's heart rate variability field. Oh, how lovely. Well, if that app can do it, can other apps do it? I'm just saying, this is just one example, right? These are just examples. Buddy chooses the What's Bugs Me room, right? What bugs me? As soon as he does, the online community application begins sending an encoded form of Buddy's heart rate variability data to the Send It With Feeling service server. Buddy's in control. And remember, they said it was encrypted, so it's got to be okay, right? It's got to be okay. The Send It With Feeling service online community application on Buddy's client also listens for updates from the server. Whenever one arrives, the online community application not only displays the new data, but also decodes and applies the included encoded heart rate variability field data to Buddy. This is creepy shit. This heart rate variability field is the sum of the heart rate variability fields of all of the room's current participants combined in a manner as described in greater details herein. Thus, each participant not only reads what the others are saying, but can also feel the common heart rate variability field, just as if they were all together. Just, that's super fucking weird, but okay. Note that the online community application may receive updates from the server which contain only heart rate variability field updates. Wow. The present invention has been described with reference to diagrams of methods, apparatus, and systems and computer program products according to embodiments of this invention. It should be understood that each diagram can be implemented on or by a computer program instructions. These computer program instructions may be provided to a processor of general purpose and blah, 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 blah. So patent citations, and this is where it also gets kind of interesting. So we're done with that. For those of you that stuck around, congratulations. I'm glad you did. I want to show you something here. Some of these companies here, bioelectromagnetic technologies, biomagnometer with selectable pickup coil array back in 1992. 1992. Wicker Inc. Haven't really looked at them. I was hoping that this was one of these patents that showed like Effectiva and Nielsen, where they get into understanding your emotions in your brain, but it's not. So we are going to move forward now that you have heard this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's for good reason, right? Because this is where we're going. Computer is lagging, of course. All right. So this is where we're going. We're going to a place where your house is connected and it understands everything, and it's going to have the ability to transmit all five senses plus your emotions over the internet to other people in your house, to people that you choose to socialize with, to the government, to the hospitals, to the police station, everything. Home will be the platform for exchanging the perceptive information between individuals. This perceptive information altogether in its exchangeable format is the knowledge that individuals attain. Future Wireless Communications Era 2050. Smart connectivity. Sensing the environment, gateway out to the cloud, which connects you to your friends and your relatives. It connects you to emergency services. and it connects you to the internet, global network operations center. That is the network exchange and interface that basically provides the physical architecture that connects you and makes up the cloud. Here is internet technologies, micro to macro. Nanoscale networks, right? That's that Charles Lieber stuff. It's biologically grown stuff. I'm going to show you videos of bioelectronics where they're literally talking about genetically modifying organisms to make them more electrogenic, to literally grow nanofibers from biologic materials that are electrically conductive to the tune of being able to run circuits, microcomputer type shit, growing this stuff with organic material, and then making cells electrogenic, meaning they respond to electricity through genetic manipulation. I will show you videos on that as time permits. But you have here all of the commonly understood things like a near field communication, right? Tap to pay, or you go to a hotel and you tap the access card on the door and it opens, right? Near field communication. It's in your phone. It broadcasts at unique frequencies that are very interesting, by the way. Very, very interesting. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz. Wi-Fi goes up to 5 gigahertz. And then the new Y-Gig is 60 gigahertz, right? Notice all the cool little green dots on this dude, right? Body area networks, nano networks, personal area, body area networks, near field communication, right? Body network on you, personal network in your house, your workplace, going out to the city, metropolitan network, wide area network, near Earth and interplanetary communications. And it's done with cell towers, fiber optics, and satellites. This is the future. It is the present, actually. And all of these things are standardized. That's why they have standards, so that they all interoperate. Nano networks will interoperate with personal area networks, near field networks, and body networks. All of these interoperate very, very cleanly with each other. And then when you get to a personal area network, it's generally on Ethernet of some type, coax, wireless, or twisted pair Ethernet out to metropolitan. And the new stuff they're putting out is switched Ethernet. Switched Ethernet. You can look that up. They're replacing SONET, and they're replacing old legacy fiber optic systems that are designed for city to city or country to country type communications. They're replacing it with switched Ethernet. And the satellites going up are also on switched Ethernet. Everything is moving to a switched Ethernet platform. That's where it's going. Human bond communication, right? We've gone over this a few times, but it's this idea of quantifying all of your senses, transmitting them over the internet, and injecting them into your nervous system so that you have a sensation, right? I'm poor. I'm worried about COVID, but it's okay because I can log in and I can put my phone in an Oculus and have this visual experience while at the same time have some device that I'm wearing. Oh, by the way, I found a patent with Oculus, Facebook Oculus the other day. It's got electrodes all around the outside of that thing that's able to transmit and receive power through your body. You can have a power supply like a phone or something on your waist, and it will use your body as a network to then transmit power through your body to power the Oculus. But it's lost in one of my hundreds and hundreds of tabs over 2 different computers. So one day I'll get back to it. I found that the other day. But what you're seeing here on the screen is this idea that you have optical and oral, right? Sight and sound. That's easy. We all understand what that is. It's multimedia. It's video with audio, right? But then you have this thing on homeboy's wrist right here, a watch, for example, and they've got this little arrow going up here, human sensory explicator, whereby the smell, taste, and touch can be interpreted and potentially injected into your nervous system, kind of like what we've been looking at all night. And this idea, moving beyond just your emotions or just using electromagnetic waves to manipulate the vision centers in your brain, it can in fact interact with the peripheral nervous system in one form or another to tantalize your nose or your taste buds or some gentle place on your body. Human bond communication. Future virtual reality. 1997, Brain Functions Lab. These are some other components that I found. I'm not going to go through them in detail. A method and apparatus for will determination and biosignal control. So this is a patent that discusses understanding motivation and understanding the likelihood of you doing something, even if under stress. 1997. Brain Functions Lab Incorporated. And we will get into this when we get more into quantum stuff. But I found this today. This blew my freaking mind. System and a method for detecting and visualizing biofields. Biofields, because stuff we kind of been talking about, right? With nuclear magnetic resonance imaging and QED, quantum coherent fluid immersion. So those of you that listened on Christmas, last show, were exposed to this idea of using light to imprint a hologram into distilled water. And that hologram being a picture, a hologram of DNA that then basically manifested in water, whereby once this water was irradiated with a hologram of DNA, not DNA, a recording of DNA, they then diluted the water with a 10-part dilution, so 1 part water, 1 part water that had the DNA information imprinted onto it with a laser hologram, right? 1 part of that, 9 parts of clean distilled water. That's a 1 to 10 dilution, right? They did that like 100 times to dilute it to nothing. And then they took a sample of that water and they put it through a PCR test. And we're all familiar with the PCR test, right? They put it through a PCR test. I think they said 25 to 30 times, which is the maximum allowable amount of amplifications or replications of anything that's in that material before it's distorted to the extent that it's not a valid test. So they ran it up to what is the standard maximum, not what the CDC says. Those poop sticks said 45 times, which is way over the minimum or the maximum. What they did when they did this test with the hologram injected into water or imprinted onto water, right? They actually were able to generate that genetic code from the PCR test that they had imprinted onto the distilled water using a laser, right? This idea that DNA that they can move DNA around with light over the internet, basically using light, creating a hologram of DNA as information, 1s and 0s, and then having those 1s and 0s translate to a particular modulation pattern of light that is then imprinted into water or imprinted into lab animals for tests to do things like reverse aggressive diabetes, pancreatic failure, or to immunize from obtaining pancreatic failure when poisoned with something that's directly designed to kill your pancreas. So I found this today, started reading through it, and they're able to detect biomagnetic fields using nuclear magnetic resonance and some other stuff. It's beyond my understanding to actually talk to you about it in any detail, but I'm gonna look at this stuff again. And this patent is another one from the same company, and it talks about biomodulation using a fluid immersion pathway and photo-induced coherent resonance energy transfer. Right, so they're using the water, and they're putting light through it, and then interacting with your biomagnetic field, biomodulating you with light. So I show this to you because this, to me, when I look at this stuff, this is like med bed stuff, only you're immersed in a tank because they need an atmosphere that's conducive for quantum mechanics to occur. And water seems to be one of the ways that they're doing it. I'm sure we're way beyond this. Like, because we're 70% water. So what's stopping them from using this as a baseline, kind of like they would bench test or lab test any kind of other technology, and then figure out ways to make it a little more usable in normal environments, whereby they can take the water in your outlying tissues, in your skin, and in the stuff that's right underneath your skin, use that water in order to be the fluid necessary to biomodulate further into your body as they pass through that water. And I need to read more about this to be able to explain that in better detail, but this is the stuff I see when I read this kind of stuff. What else did I look at today? Oh, time reversal invariance in living tissue. This is interesting. I'm going to read about this and tell you about it sometime. But this provides a device and a method and a treatment for chronic diseases. This invention was designed using theoretical concepts of quantum biology. Principles of operation are based on the device's ability to stimulate a Bose-Einstein condensate, and excitation of Froelich resonance, in living tissue. I don't know. I didn't have time to get into all that today. I'm going to though, because this is really where we're going. This is really where 5G is going. 5G is going to allow a quantum wireless internet, free space, photonic communication with quantum networks. That is where we are going. And so this is where my research is ultimately going to go. It says right here that superconducting state facilitates DNA replication, transcription, and translation, thereby allowing proper formation or regeneration of healthy tissue. So they're literally able to take particular waveforms, wave types, wave numbers is what they call it. And it's really just a way to just say that which wave, how many of them, how often, how many seconds or what period of time do you rest between pulses, all of that necessary for excitation, right? In order to generate or utilize optical phonon scattering in living tissue generated by optical photon excitation. So optical photon excitation is different than optical phonon excitation, or phonon scattering, excuse me. Phonons deal with acoustic waves, sound, phonons, basic root form of an acoustic wave or a longitudinal wave. And a photon is a transverse wave, like electromagnetic. So there's different things going on. And when they push light into the body or they push electromagnetics into the body, they create acoustic waves. And we're going to talk about that when we go over ultra wideband on the next show, dealing with using ultra wideband high frequency pulsing to generate acoustic waves in the body so that it can image the body better than ultrasound can. It's going to create ultrasound, but do it in such a way that's in much higher fidelity, much higher resolution than just using ultrasound. And we're going to talk about that probably on the next show. And all of these things tie together, folks. It's just to what degree are you willing to allow your mind to bend, and to what degree are you going to consider or contemplate where we're at technologically. That's all. I mean, we're not going to find a manual online that's like dropped out of Air Force Research Laboratory or DARPA or some moon base somewhere that is the recipe book for turning a human into a chicken or making a man bear pig or curing cancer, for example, with something like a med bed. Stuff is super classified. So all we can do is look at what's possible with stuff that's available publicly and then kind of put some pieces together and say, maybe so, maybe not. But where we're going is these kind of technologies that are put into mobile devices. Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary, optical stimulation of the brainstem or midbrain, including auditory areas, using V cells. V-cell array stimulators, right? What are these? Well, Lockheed Martin knows all about these. And these things are on your iPhone now. They're on, basically, if you have a facial recognition on your phone, these things have it, right? V-cell array stimulator apparatus for light stimulation of bodily tissues, Lockheed Martin, 2008. V-cells operable to emit light at one or more wavelengths, pulse repetition rates, pulse durations, pulse powers, pulse energies, light distribution, space or time, right? Patterns. They're effective to stimulate or photostimulate human or other animal tissue, in particular nerve tissue. In some embodiments, this invention provides implantable devices that include having plurality many V cells. V cells, you say, can stimulate nerves. Okay, well, stimulating neurons through tissue using light, Northwestern University. And it talks about having this patent's crazy because it talks about putting nanotech or microtech or nanotech in the body and using those as transducers or reflectors to manipulate your body with light. But that's for another day. We're so far down the rabbit hole, folks. It's not even funny. Optical stimulation of neurons. This gives a basic background of it. This is an older patent. And where are we at? We got 5 minutes. I'll show you this stuff I was looking at today when I had nothing else to do. I literally have nothing else to do. So this is what I'm doing with my time. I want to show you this. There is a crescendo here at the end. Time and space multiplexing of spatial light modulators, right? Holographic images, projecting. So they're able to take something like a V cell that's got many different laser diodes on it and create holograms and sampling or transmitting them greater than at one kilohertz. So that's like your TV, right? 60 hertz, 120 hertz, and then you can't see it flicker anymore. It just looks like a solid image. They're talking about making holographic images, right, with a light projection system greater than 1 kilohertz. And it is able to irradiate samples having light responsive neurons with holographic images. Now, keep in mind, I just told you that the last episode, they were using lasers, albeit it was a specific one that they were talking about. They were using lasers to generate a hologram of DNA, and they were putting it in water, and they were able to actually manifest that DNA in water. And other experiments they discussed were using the same general idea, a laser, to create a hologram of DNA that was injected into sick rats that were dying of pancreatic failure as a result of being given a poison that was designed to target the pancreas and stop the production or processing of sugar, production of insulin. And then they used a hologram of DNA from a healthy mouse pup they took the hologram of healthy mouse pup pancreas cells and they irradiated the rat that was sick with the healthy information, the healthy genetic information with the hologram light. And they corrected the disease and they lived and they processed sugar to the end of the experiment. And furthermore, they immunized rats using the same method, taking the genetic information from healthy mouse pup pancreas DNA, and they immunized adult rats so that when they were given 5 times the lethal dose for pancreas failure, they were immune from it. Using light, using holograms. So, we're getting to Apple. Don't worry. Apple uses these V-cell arrays for 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional spatial awareness. So their components on their devices kind of can do the same thing. This is a cuff and an apparatus for optical and electrical nerve stimulation, right? And Apple, 2017, creating arbitrary patterns on 2-dimensional uniform grid V-cell arrays. This stuff is what is used to do facial recognition. And this is a laser diode array that's behind the screen that looks cute and sexy, and it shoots out laser beams, and these are tunable and they're steerable, and they can break them apart and put them together, and they can change the wavelengths, and it's a variable wavelength, and the wavelengths are very, very close to the resonant wavelengths needed to interact with DNA that were in some of the other patents that I showed you a minute ago. Like I said, I'm not ready to put all this together yet, but I went on a little journey today that kind of blew my freaking mind. Overlapping pattern projector, Apple. Optoelectronic device using semiconductor substrate, array of optical emitters that have 2-dimensional pattern, projection lens, and a diffractive optical element, a DOE, diffractive optical element. It's mounted on a semiconductor substrate, so a computer chip to collect and focus light emitted by the emitters, so as to project optical beams containing a light pattern corresponding to the 2-dimensional pattern. Very, very interesting. And so you see here, these are the different dot matrices that can be emitted from the phone, right? And here's how they can kind of steer it and all that. Bounce it off a mirror, introduce the waves, clash the waves together, and I'll show you exactly what I mean here in a moment, if this will load. And let's look at the library. Playlists, this is the one. Face ID. This is your Face ID. This is what we just looked at, those V cells, those chips that have lasers on them that are able to create 3-dimensional spatial awareness and do things like map the veins, right? These are it's in every phone, but this is just, I mean, you can see how far these dots go. They go all the way over to his left, but our right. And they're invisible to your eyes. Oh, it's fine. It's safe. Pulsing, lovingly, tunable. Tunable. These things are tunable. They have a large frequency range in the infrared that they use. Anyway, let's see. Yeah. So this is also another Apple patent. Vein matching for difficult biometric authentication. right? So siblings or twins, situation where the facial recognition authentication process is less certain. Yeah, well, that infrared thing can see through your skin and map things like your veins and your nerves in your face. And it's using it for biometric authentication. And when we get into photoacoustic or thermoacoustic modulation of the nervous system, I hope you remember this last little piece. And with that, we'll stop for today.